Promises are a big deal in the Bible. From the beginning in Genesis, when Adam and Eve sinned, God promised that there was going to be someone who would come and crush the head of the serpent who had deceived them. Later on, we see that when the Israelites are captured by Egypt, God had promised that there would be someone who would come to rescue them from the Egyptians. Yet again, we see another promise from God. This time, the promise is to David, a king of Israel. In 2 Samuel 7:16, this is the promise for David from God. It says, "Your house and your kingdom will continue before me for all time, and your throne will be secure forever." God is telling David that his throne is never going to end, that his kingdom would last forever. But eventually, David died, and so did his son and his son's son. Eventually, no descendant of David was king of Israel. In fact, Israel didn't even have a king because they had gone into exile. In Psalms, a psalmist writes this. He says, "Lord, where is your steadfast love of old, by which your faithfulness you swore to David?" Even though most of the Israelites had ran out of hope, Zechariah got a picture of the king who was to come. Zechariah saw a king coming in on a donkey. It says that he was humble and that he had a righteous and he had salvation for all. Fast forward. We see a baby born in a stable, in a very humble situation. We see the baby grow up. And eventually we hear, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. Hosanna! Hosanna!" We see people dropping palm trees at his feet. This is the king who was promised. Eventually, though, the people turned on him. They turned on this man who was prophesied to be the forever king. They killed him. We know the story doesn't end there, though. 3 days later, this man, whose name was Jesus, came back to life, and he went to heaven. In Revelation, John paints this picture of a king in heaven. He says that he sees heaven opening, and he sees a white horse standing there, and its rider, his name was Faithful and True, for he judges fairly and wages a righteous war. After this big, long description of what John sees in heaven, at the very end of describing this rider of the horse, on his robe at his thigh was written this title. You know what it says? It says, "King of all kings and Lord of all lords." Doesn't that increase your trust in Jesus? This king who was prophesied thousands of years ago is the same king who's with you today. This king is the same king who wants to guide your life. He's the one who wants to live in intimacy with you. He is the King of all kings and Lord of all lords, and you get to do life with him today.